Their worst nightmare, their quick answer usually involves their children. Parents spend their lives protecting them from harm and preparing them for life. But that doesn't mean they aren't prone to during their youth. Hundreds of arms pushed past the high corn stalks. Beams of light flashed across the field. The same name was called again and again. Remy. A sickening feeling swelled in Timber's stomach as she stopped running. Bodies brushed against her as they continued into the maze of corn. Everything looked the same. Everything was the same. It had been hours since she last saw her daughter. How would she find her little girl? Then they heard a faint noise. Timber Elliott dried her palms against the thighs of her pants before shielding her eyes from the sun. She'd just finished washing up from dinner when a silence descended. Usually she could hear the screams and giggles of young Remy as she played with her beloved pet terrier. Her gaze scanned the yard. Nothing. Where was Remy? Remy was always fond of hide and seek. Timber checks her daughter's favorite hiding spots: behind the car, under the hay, behind the corn stalks. Nothing. She slapped her hands and whistled, expecting their dog to run to her side. But she was just met by the rustling of their cornfields. Four-legged Fat Heath usually came to her call every single time. Something was wrong. Timber ran inside their house and pounded up the stairs. She drew every curtain in every room, searched under every bed, checked in every wardrobe, inspected the space behind every door. Remy was nowhere to be found. Timber's mind went into overdrive. Had someone taken her? Was she hurt? Was she in pain? And where was their little Yorkie? Timber wasted no time. She immediately dialed 911, her hand shaking as she punched the numbers. She held onto the counter, trembling as she told the police the few things she knew. Remy was missing, all alone, and more than likely in danger. A constant flow of tears streamed down Timber's face. Why did she take her eyes off her? Word quickly spread of young Remy. After Timber's initial calls, more than 100 volunteers and police showed up at their family farm. Flashlights were found and brought to the property as night fell. Jackets were put on backs as they prepared for the night ahead. Kind words of optimism made their way to Timber, but nothing helped. How could she ever forgive herself? It was stressful and emotional. We were all out there just walking back and forth from one end to the other, yelling her name, explained family friend John Paul Kopp. Hours went by. Friends, family, neighbors, strangers, and law enforcement searched. Bodies walked back and forth, bumping into one another, calling for Remy, delirious from exhaustion. Timber pushed on, dragging each leg forward, ignoring the burning in her calves. But then the unimaginable happened. Lights began to fade one after another. In the distance, the flickers diminished like dying fireflies. Timber turned to take in the face of her friend John. His face slowly disappeared, and they were left in darkness. She could hear her heart pounding in her ears. You don't hear well in the corn either. So when someone's yelling your name, you hear them, but you don't know where it's coming from, a volunteer explained. Timber slapped the torch off her hand. Nothing. Cries escaped her mouth. Then the sheriff's office decided to end the search for the night. Timber Merritt didn't sleep that night. Instead, she stayed awake worrying about her little girl, jumping at every sound hoping it was her. As the sun began to rise, Timber went outside and was met by many of the same faces from the night before, and newcomers. Out of habit, she picked up Fat Heath's water bowl. A chopping noise from the distance began to rise. 2 helicopters flew above her and made their way towards the field. Timber refused to give up. Once again, the large group made their way into the corn as the sun rose. They scoured the area and called for Remy. Quinlan, Timber's brother, had driven from Kentucky to Missouri to search for his niece. Timber shared the surprising truth to their field. The cornfields are like razor blades, cutting you, especially for a child. Quinlan pushed on through the field, determined to find her. Then he heard a bark. Quinlan stopped, for fear he'd make noise. He called for Remy again and then waited. Another weak bark replied. He spun. He couldn't make out where the noise was coming from. So he ran, stopping every now and again in an attempt to find the direction the noise was emanating from. He pushed stalks aside. Then he nearly dropped to his knees. Remy lay motionless about half a mile into the field. Dirt covered her hands and face. Her hair was a nest of dirt and leaves, and her pants were stained in mud. And right beside her was Fat Heath. Quinlan lifted her limp body from the bed they'd made. Fat Heath followed suit, his tail wagging. But Remy wouldn't wake up. Remy was reunited with Timber before they quickly made their way to the Black River Medical Center. She was asleep whenever they picked her up. She was definitely exhausted and hot, Timber explained. Severely dehydrated and worn out, Timber couldn't help but blame herself. What if Fat Heath hadn't been there to protect her for 12 hours? Then she got her daughter's results. Remy suffered from bug bites and rashes from the corn in the night. Her mother shared her concern. "I've never seen that many mosquito bites on anyone before." But thankfully, Fat Heath was there to keep her calm and safe from any predators. Timber can't help but wonder what could have happened to her daughter if he had not been there to protect her. Did someone say something about a girl's best friend? Remy has since been reunited with her trusted companion, Fat Heath. The story has gone viral after being shared online. Many have praised the Yorkshire Terrier as the hero of the story, instead of Remy's uncle who actually found her. "Why was you not scared?" Timber asked Remy. "Because Fat Heath was with me," the shy girl whispered. Thankfully, this story ended in happy tears. Fat Heath is well deserving of some extra treats.